Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
It's increasingly becoming tough to be independent journalists in many countries now, including in many democracies. But what happens if you are journalists in a territory or in a region which you thought was a democracy but has suddenly ceased to be one? We are talking about the Apple Daily episode today in Kathak Clutter. Now, Apple Daily is like a tabloid, a bit like USA Today, but very popular in Hong Kong. Very popular in Hong Kong, the second largest selling, also the second most popular website. It does a lot of paparazzi stuff, a lot of other sensational stuff, 3 pages of entertainment. I believe it's now been raised to 8 or something. So it does all that, but it is one of the most strident voices questioning the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese government. And it has done so from the very beginning. What's happened is the Chinese government has been attacking this paper now for some time, directly for more than a year now. But now, just last week, they raided the newspaper's offices, newsrooms. More than 500 officers came in to raid it. They collected 44 hard drives from their reporters, journalists' computers, which means all their sources, all whistleblowers, everybody in Hong Kong is now exposed to the Chinese Communist Party government. And not just that, they also froze all their accounts and arrested their editor-in-chief and their CEO. Now, editor-in-chief and CEO have been arrested, whereas the owner has already been arrested earlier. Now, the editor-in-chief is Ryan Law, and very often you find in Hong Kong that Hong Kong Chinese take a sort of a Christian name to anglicize their names. So he's Ryan Law, but he's actually Ryan, but Law Y Kwong. And similarly, the CEO, Chung Kim Hung, has also been arrested. Besides that, 4 other people were arrested, 2 business executives and 2 senior editors. They were fortunately bailed out a day later. They were not charged with anything. These 2, on the other hand, have been charged under the toughest laws. And these laws are colluding with foreign powers, secession, sedition, trying to undermine the government of Hong Kong, trying to undermine Chinese authority essentially. And they've been charged under what is called as Hong Kong National Security Law. Now, if you might recall, in our episode 483, almost exactly a year ago, we had talked about the new changes that the Chinese government had brought about. And these changes were to do with extending China's national security law to Hong Kong, which was held alongside a second Congress, which is called CPCC, Chinese People's Consultative Congress. So that's why it was called 2 summits. Towards the end of May last year, 2020. At those summits, the Chinese government decided they empowered themselves by getting a vote there. And it was quite a remarkable vote, as you would expect in a democracy with Chinese characteristics. It was voted 2878 in favor, that you would expect in a Chinese democratic system, in a Chinese parliament, Chinese Communist parliament, but 1 against. Now, he's the Paramveer, the Victoria Cross, the Congressional Medal of Honor, who I'd like to meet, or whatever the Chinese equivalent is, who had the courage to disagree, and 6 others abstained. But in any case, it was 2878. It was an overwhelming majority, to the extent majorities matter in these situations. And the Chinese government now got the powers to act on Hong Kong in the same way as they might act on Chinese citizens or foreign citizens in China. Remember, those Canadians, some of the others have been in jail in China for a long time because they are charged under the same laws as the Chinese citizens are charged there. Now, we know the background is that 1997, the 99-year lease on which the Chinese government had given Hong Kong on lease to Britain, that was in the 19th century. This was a throwback to the Opium Wars and China's great humiliation. So 99 years, Britain had control over Hong Kong. It is true, as we had told you also in our episode 483, that Deng Xiaoping had once told Margaret Thatcher in a meeting, during a meeting in the 80s, he had said that I can just walk into Hong Kong and by lunchtime it will be mine, you can do nothing. And Margaret Thatcher said, yes, you are right. If you walk in, I can do nothing, you can take over. But what you will do is, you will tell the whole world what China is all about, what new China is all about. That means nothing has changed. Now, Deng Xiaoping was a long time back. Now, Xi Jinping, after inheriting a China which has benefited from Deng Xiaoping's opening up and also good work by his successors, he thinks China is now in a place where it doesn't care what the world thinks China is like. So he can do what he wants, China can do what it wants. So that's how China has extended these laws to Hong Kong. Now, people arrested now who've been jailed, they've been charged with this terrible, very bad national security law. These are Ryan Law, the chief editor, and Cheung Kim Hong, the CEO of Next Digital, which is the company that owns Apple Daily. They were brought in, if I read reports in the Western media, they were brought in an unmarked van, which means a van with no markings saying government, police, anything. An unmarked van with black windows. They were brought to a court and the judge denied them bail. So while two senior editors and two reporters had been bailed out, these two were denied bail. Now the owner, Jimmy Lai, and once again, as I said, sometimes in Hong Kong these names can be confusing because there is a Christian name added to the Chinese name. So Jimmy Lai, whose full name is Lai Ching-hee. So Jimmy Lai Ching-hee, he has been under arrest now since December, and there's a dramatic sequence to how he was arrested, released. I will tell you about that. And he's now been given a 20-month jail sentence for alleged violation of the national security law. Now, he was the owner of a larger corporation which also owns these newspapers. In fact, Jimmy Lai is the founder of a very well-known and very famous clothing brand, garment brand from Hong Kong called Giordano. In fact, for a long time it was called Giordano Blues because a lot of the products it produced were in various shades of blue. In fact, in my jean wearing days, at some point I might have worn a pair of Giordano Blues trousers as well. Now, for 20 months he's been jailed under this law. These fellows have now been locked up, but more importantly, all the accounts of the company have been frozen. All the accounts of the company have been frozen, and the Hong Kong police chief has issued warnings to HSBC and Citibank, with which these companies deal, to say that if you have any more transactions with this person, then you can face charges that entail jail up to 7 years. So this is really an effort to shut down the paper. And the timing was very interesting. Only yesterday, that is Sunday, 20th of June, the paper celebrated its 26th anniversary. It was set up on the 20th of June, 1995, in anticipation of Hong Kong becoming a part of China, because then Jimmy Lai thought that first of all, the territory would need a voice of democracy, and second, probably being a good businessman, he thought that this will be a good thing in the market. This will be a good value to sell in the market, because people would then be wanting to read or wanting to support a pro-democracy publication. So it started in 1995. He, as his apparel empire grew, had money to spare. Remember, he was like most entrepreneurs in Hong Kong. He was self-made, and he's somebody who built himself from nothing. He had come as a kind of runaway from Canton into Hong Kong, worked as a laborer for a long time in a factory. In the course of time, saved up money, invested some more, saved up money, invested some more, and then bought a completely broken down factory. From that factory, he started this clothing brand. So, and the ultimate Hong Kong rags to riches story. So maybe he thought that this is a good value proposition, good brand proposition also. So he set it up, not realizing it will get him into this kind of trouble. Now, the reason I said that there was great irony or great cruel irony to the timing of this attack on this paper is that just yesterday they celebrated their 26th anniversary, and now they've announced that chances are that they will have no money to pay their bills or salaries because all their accounts are frozen. So from this weekend, this paper will now shut down. There will be no place for this paper to go. Now, Jimmy Lai earlier, when he came under pressure from the Chinese authorities because his paper had become a runaway success, he had then said, as long as the readers choose us, support our journalism and agree with our position, no matter how strong the pressures become, we will be able to stand tall. That is what he said then. He also maybe got ahead of himself. So in one magazine interview, he called Li Peng, the Chinese premier at that point, Li Peng as his name is spelled, Li Peng, son of a turtle egg. That obviously he got ahead of himself. And the Chinese obviously made note of that and remembered that. July 8, 2019, he also went to Washington. This is the time when Hong Kong pro-democracy agitation movement was on. He went to Washington, he met Michael Pence, then Vice President, and Mike Pompeo, then Secretary of State in Washington, and he discussed with them his stand and sought their support on Hong Kong democracy movement's opposition to the Chinese government's extradition bill. You remember that is what had led to big protests in Hong Kong, which went on for a long time. And then it looked like, just when it seemed like Xi Jinping was going to send his troops and tanks into Hong Kong, and Donald Trump was tweeting late night Indian time saying tanks are going, troops are going, Chinese are invading Hong Kong, stuff like that. It didn't happen. He suddenly called it off. So what happened? Was it a change of heart, or is it that he decided to bide his time? Now it's obvious that he decided to bide his time. And now he thinks his time has come. So he's moved in. In fact, he had signaled it very strongly last year when he passed that resolution at the People's Congress empowering himself to enforce this law in Hong Kong. At that point, everybody would have known where he was headed and where Hong Kong was headed. Global Times, which is the mouthpiece of the Chinese Communist Party, that's been calling Jimmy Lai a traitor, in brazen collusion with foreign powers, etc., etc. In August 10, I told you there is some dramatic turn of events to his arrest finally. August 10, 2020, he was arrested, then released on bail. December 11, he was arrested again. Now, August 10, when he was arrested after a raid on his office. And what was he arrested for? That he has committed fraud in the leasing of the building in which his office is located. That's like, I remember an old case in Punjab where a police chief in Amritsar district was not able to charge a super smuggler for anything because he was under so much pressure from the government. He knew that he'll be immediately moved, and how do you find evidence against a smuggler? That he actually had a case of a bicycle theft filed against the smuggler, maybe on a Thursday or something, when Friday was holiday, and had him arrested so that he could have the pleasure of keeping him in custody at least till the following Monday. So he was first arrested for committing allegedly fraud in the lease of his building. Then December 11 came the serious stuff. Now he was arrested for colluding with foreign forces. December 23, however, he was given bail to spend Christmas with his family. This is torture or psychological warfare with Chinese characteristics again. So he was bailed out. December 29, he resigned as the head of his company which owned the publication. Obviously, he was trying to distance himself. December 31, a higher court in Hong Kong cancelled his bail, saying that the trial court had erred in bailing him out. Then from the jail, he wrote something else brave. He wrote, quote, and remember these because these are important lines, and you like him or not, you like his paper or not, but the fact is a lot of journalists and editors around the world are facing this issue now. He said, and it's something that all journalists and all editors should listen to, and all readers and viewers should also pay attention to. He said, defending freedom of speech is a dangerous job. It is our responsibility as journalists to seek justice. This was on 12th of April this year. After that, on 16th, he got his conviction. He was jailed for 14 months. On the same day, the Hong Kong police chief, the same police chief who had sent out that warning now to the banks, the same police chief, Chris Tang, had said that a newspaper, he didn't name which newspaper, a newspaper is dividing the people of Hong Kong with fake news, and it may be violating national security laws. So you know what was headed in which direction. Once he was convicted, there were rumors that Apple Daily will now shut down, and there were also rumors that Apple Daily will now be forced to shut down ritually before the 100th anniversary celebrations of the Chinese Communist Party begin, which is on July 1. Now you see, it's so close to July 1, so it looks like somebody is keeping his promise, although at that point the company that owns Apple Daily sent out statement saying that this is not true, no such thing is going to happen, please discount these rumors. But that did not happen, and now this paper is sitting on the verge of closure. Now Jimmy Lai is a controversial figure. He's done some interesting things. While running his business, there was a case when he was accused of paying a bribe to a top American official, a former Deputy Secretary of State, later President of World Bank, Paul Wolfowitz. I don't know what happened to that story. So he's lived in some controversy. But he is now a champion of press freedom across the world. He was the recipient of the Freedom of Press Award from Reporters Sans Frontiers, the big global freedom of the press organization. He also, in his own ways, is an interesting guy, because why Apple Daily? If you see Apple Daily, if you see his logo, you see the apple with that bite. Why apple with the bite? Why harking back to Adam and Eve? He says, you know why? Because this is where the business of news began. If Adam had not bitten into the forbidden fruit, there would not have been any evil, and if there was no evil, there was going to be no news. So a colorful character, but in jail, and the paper that he started just as it's finished its 26th anniversary, I think right now is in deep trouble. And you know what? We took a couple of days off from CTC and national interest, and our country lost one of its greatest sporting icons. That is Milkha Singh. Now you've seen, heard, watched everything about Milkha Singh over the past couple of days. I'll tell you something, the greatness of the man, greatness of its athletic talent, that the 400 meters men's record that is set up in 1960 survived 38 years. For 38 years, no Indian could outrun it. In those 38 years, spikes came in, good spikes. He did not have good spikes to run with. Tartan tracks came in. He ran on cinder at Rome in 1960. Cinder, as you run, you lose energy, and you are also your motion is also retarded. Not so much on tartan track, but in spite of artificial tracks, nobody could beat him. Until 1998, and it's a juicy little story. In 1998, another Punjabi athlete, another Fauji like Milkha Singh called Paramjeet Singh, he, in a race in Kolkata, he bested Milkha Singh's record. The record in Milkha Singh's name is 45.74 seconds. Paramjeet Singh did 45.7 seconds. Now Milkha Singh had said that whichever Indian breaks my record, I will give him 2 lakh rupees. But he refused. He said, I don't believe that my record has been broken, because my record stays. My record is not 45.7 seconds, it's 45.6 seconds. Now he was both right and wrong. And that is a juicy part of the story. And why, I will tell you. Because when he ran his race, those races were hand timed. Now hand timing, a human being always takes a little bit of time reacting, just pressing the timer, than something electronically or digitally managed might do. So all the old handheld timings were then rectified by adding 0.14 second to them as the difference between handheld timing, manual timing, and electronic timing. So his timing at Rome, which was 45.6 seconds, was converted to 45.74 seconds. He said, I don't accept it. So Paramjeet Singh has not beaten me. So Paramjeet Singh obviously got distraught, and he spoke about it. But more importantly, the situation right now is, first of all, the fact that for 38 years nobody could beat his record. But now India's national record stands in a better place. And the person who has decisively broken his record, because the other thing Milkha Singh had said was, I don't believe any records which have been broken in India. Break my record overseas, because in India you can fix timings. So the current record holder in that category now is a Navy man, also a soldier, Mohammad Anis Yahya, who has done 45.24 seconds, and he did this at an international meet in Prague, Czech Republic. So once again, the other wish of Milkha Singh's, that they should be broken overseas in an international meet, has also been answered. And just for the record, in case you are curious, and I hope you are curious about athletics, which is the mother of all sports as well, the world record right now is 43.03 seconds. So that's a good 2.2 seconds ahead of our national record, and the Asian record right now is 43.93 seconds, which is held by Yusuf Ahmad Maswari, a famous Saudi runner. So on that note, I will also remind you once again, do your duty. We've heard all about how important free media is. We also know how difficult it is to be in the free media now. And for us to carry on, for free media to survive and carry on, we need readers, only readers, citizens. Just as voters keep a good democracy together, responsible citizens keep questioning the government of the day. Similarly, good readers, paying readers keep free media together. So please pay up your contribution, please pay up your paid subscription. There are many benefits coming up, and over the next few weeks you will see appeals from many of my colleagues. So please keep track of those as well.